domu Alison Kork, ovdje u Londonu. To je žena koja je na neki način, na poseban način osvetlila u jednom tradicionalnom društvu Engleze značaj žena. Ako bi trebala da vam kažem šta je ona po zanimanju, ona je svestrana, međutim ima i političke ambicije. Pitaću je šta je ono što ona misli da ovo društvo još uvek ne daje ženama. I just explained to the viewers of my country, in fact, that you have been putting a certain light on the involvement of women here in this country. This country is an enormously traditional one.
Yes.
You know, one is words and the other is a real life. So, yes. What would you say on that?
I think we are quite a traditional country, and last year was the 100th year, the anniversary of women getting the vote. So it was a really big year in this country, a lot of conversation around emancipation, women's rights, women's freedom. But my attitude has always been to just walk the talk. You know, I was never brought up to be a feminist or to bang the drum about women's issues, but I was never told by my parents there was anything I couldn't do. So in my head, I was always empowered. But that comes from your parents. That's from the way you're brought up. And my parents taught me that I could do anything I wanted to. So my attitude in life has always been to just get out there and do it, and don't worry so much about the fact that you're a woman or a man. It's largely irrelevant. However, as I matured and went into my business career, I noticed that many other women didn't start their own business, and I started to ask why that was. And that's when I realised that other women didn't feel empowered. They hadn't had that advantage. There were barriers facing them. And I felt that it was my duty, or at least something that I could do, because I didn't feel held back in that way, to try and help them. And that's really what I've done in my business career and with my charity, to help women set up their own business.
I know the English society quite well, and when I got the address, and when you invited me to your home, I realized that you're living on a very, very nice area, and your house is so nice. You can see that the house means that you did succeed.
Thank you.
Was it any help for you? Was somebody pushing you? Have you been belonging to some special, societies? How did you make it?
So absolutely not. I come from a very loving but very normal, if you want to use the word, ordinary background, and I think that actually has defined who I am. So I am the granddaughter of a postman. My mother worked in a school as a dinner lady and a doctor's receptionist. I was the first person in my family to go on to university, to further education. And so everything that I've done has really been self-made. And I can't really answer the question why, because it was always just a sort of fire in my belly. I just remember that from a very, very young age, that I wanted to succeed. And it wasn't that I was ashamed of where I came from. I'm extremely proud of where I come from, and I would always be the first to say I'm the granddaughter of a postman. It means a lot to me. But I always wanted to see how far I could push myself. And I, as I said, don't know where that came from. It just was in me all the time. So I do live in a beautiful house. It certainly wasn't given to me. I worked very hard for it. Every penny, everything you see, my husband and I have built together.
So goes the pounds, shillings and crowns, princes and clowns. We all go down with 2 penny.
Is politics helping in this country? If you're belonging, for example, to a certain party, is it a kind of a guarantee that the career and life is going to be easier? Explain me.
Well, I'm a natural conservative. I was a conservative even before I identified that I was a conservative, because I've always believed in the individual's power to improve themselves, to improve their position in life. I believe in wealth creation. I think it's important that everybody fulfills their absolute potential. And I personally don't believe in socialism, because for me that means forcing everybody down to a level, but an equal level, but down to a level. And actually I believe in raising people up to be the best that they can be. And for me, that's why I'm a conservative. Has politics helped me? Not particularly, in the sense that I am a self-made entrepreneur, so I took it upon myself to create my own good fortune before I went anywhere near politics. But do I enjoy politics, and do I think that politics is a vehicle through which I can help other people to improve their life? Definitely yes. because I realise that I'm now in a position of, I'm a certain age, I've been on this earth a few years, I've learned a few things, I'm in a position where I can help other people.
Take me out tonight, where there's music and there's people and the young and the light.
You have been running for a mayor of London.
Yes.
You know, you wanted, in fact, just to explain to my viewers, you wanted to be a mayor of London.
Yes, well, London's never had a female mayor, so I thought it was about time. We're 3,000 years old. I think we need to put this one right. So I stood actually as the Conservative candidate for London Mayor 2020 and eventually lost out to a man, I have to say, but there are no hard feelings. I was the only unelected politician in the final 10, so I felt actually that I'd come an awfully long way as somebody with no traditional political background to get down to the last 10 to be interviewed. And now I'm working with Sean on his campaign. I'm working representing women and business in London, so it's a fantastic experience for me. And really anything that I can do in politics, any way I can help, is the route I shall take. I don't have to be the Mayor of London to be effective. I can do it in other ways.
But you are helping now the Mayor of London.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm working with Sean Bailey on his campaign in the run-up to the election in 2020.
Getting prepared for this interview, I had to go to some circuits where I am usually not in, and I was asking around, right? And I got a kind of information that you are an influential woman.
Oh, did you?
Yes, let me tell you. And then I heard that you are having your programs on a television.
Yes.
So you have many ways how to influence. You must not have a position.
Yes, so...
And this is the case, and you're using it very successfully. You're changing the mind, and you don't have a title, but you're helping and saying your ideas through the Mayor of London, right?
Yes.
Am I wrong?
No, you're completely right. Obviously in life you have to leverage whatever advantages you have. We all have to play our hand of cards. And my hand of cards is that I have a profile in business which gives me a certain authenticity and a permission, if you like, to talk about business and to talk about women in business, because being a woman in business is different to being a man in business. There are challenges. And it's important to make other women aware of that so that you increase their chances of success. We want people to succeed, not to fail. That's the society we want, people who are happy and who fulfill their potential.
How a British person handles a fail? How? Can you see that the person is unhappy or the person is sad? I'm not ready to see that still, and I know this country, I think, quite well. I don't see nothing.
Yeah, I don't think we're very good at failure in this country. We take it very badly. It's like a social stigma. And actually, as an entrepreneur, I'd say that failure is not just important, it's essential. I don't think I've ever met a successful business person who hadn't failed. It's not the failing that's the issue, it's how you respond to failure. You can be beaten down by it and then that's the end of you. Forget it, it's over. Or you can learn from it and rise. I mean, I had over 400 rejection letters before I got my first job in television. You're in television, you know what it means to present.
What do you mean rejections?
Well, I was absolutely terrible. I made a video of myself presenting, I sent it to television companies asking for a job, and one after the other they just said no, 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 no. My favourite rejection letter, which I remember off by heart, I'm going to read it to you. It said, so it was a gentleman, he was a TV executive, I sent him my show reel of me presenting, and I wanted to present a TV series, and he wrote back to me and he said, "Dear Alison, thank you for your show reel, which I watched with great interest. As you know, there's always a long line of people wanting to be television presenters. And having watched your show reel, I can see absolutely no reason why you should go to the front of that line."
Was it a motivation?
Do you know, I cried for about 5 minutes and then I thought, how dare you tell me what I can and can't do. Anyway, 6 months later, to cut a long, boring story short, ITV commissioned my first television series, which I wrote, presented, and got record ratings. But had I given up at that point, had his letter defined me, then that would have been it. There would have been no TV series. I wouldn't be sitting here because I wouldn't have had a career in broadcasting. So failure is really, really important, to go back to your point. We don't do it well in this country because we associate it with stigma, and we could learn from people like the Americans, for whom it's a rite of passage. It's essential, and it's nothing to look down on.
You know something? I never, ever took no for an answer.
No, me neither.
They tell me no, and I go again.
Yeah.
And again, like nobody rejected it.
New online chat space for women who are thinking of starting their own businesses will launch tomorrow. The not-for-profit organisation Make It Your Business has teamed up with Mumsnet to provide the forum, allowing users to share ideas, ask questions, find out all the information they need in what is a complicated process. Alison Kork is from MIYP. Good to see you. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
It seems like a no-brainer, really, when you think about the two platforms you're bringing
Yes.
together. And we know that there are lots of mums at home, perhaps, who think, I don't want to go back to my job, but I want to do something. Is that where this comes
Yeah,
from?
absolutely. I mean, we're thrilled to partner with Mumsnet. 12 million parents, I should say, not just women, visit the site every month. So it's a fantastic place for us to be able to talk about women starting a business and answer their questions. And far fewer women than men do start businesses. So there's clearly a need for a place where they can go, share ideas and questions, and get support and feel supported.
The most difficult thing with a successful woman is to handle the private life
Ah, yes.
and not to feel guilty
Mm.
for achieving anything. There is
Yes.
always a kind of a guilt which is present, like not enough a good mother. And the people are usually judging a woman which made a career.
Mm.
The
It's-
one who
yes.
succeed, they ask for the recipe. Is there a balance?
There is, and I think it absolutely depends upon your partner. It is a joint venture, if I can put it that way in business terms. And my husband has always been extremely supportive, and I do think that's incredibly important. So all throughout my career, if I've had to be somewhere, he's stepped in and helped looking after the children. There have never been arguments about who's earning more or less. And it's a very, very difficult thing, because I believe that marriage, like any good deal, is a balance of power. And if you have an imbalance of power in that relationship, then a lack of respect and resentment can creep in, and that's when a relationship starts to crumble. So for me, the scales always have to be evenly balanced. But when there are so many moving parts, you know, one day I'm here, one day I'm there, one day I'm looking after the children, the next day I'm not, one day I'm making money, the next day I'm losing money, it's really hard to keep that equanimity, that balance between the two people. So I have to give credit to my husband, who will be embarrassed and would never want to appear on camera. He'd be embarrassed to hear that, but I think that is an absolutely critical part of it. And to answer your other point, my feeling is you get back what you give out, and I just want to give out positivity, and with my charity to help women start their own business, just to push out that message that if we keep supporting each other, if we keep networking, if we keep giving of our knowledge and information, we all become stronger. And that's, you know, that's where I want to be. There are, I think, probably 30-40 million women in this country. You know, we've got a lot of work to do. There are a lot of women out there who are not fulfilling their potential and who could.
Kad sam srela Alison Kork, to je bilo vrlo neobavezno i tom prilikom ona mi je rekla nešto što želim da ponovi vama pred kamerama. Kako je upoznala svoga muža. I just said that you should tell me how you met your husband.
Oh, yes. Okay, so I'm a great believer in having an open mind about what life will bring. And we all go through difficult times. That's part of life's journey. So at one point in my life, I'd separated from my partner, whom I'd been with for 13 years. I was still quite young. I was only 33. So I'd been with him all my adult life. And all of a sudden, I was on my own. It was a big new adventure. And I was sitting at home one day feeling a little bit downhearted because my life had changed dramatically. I was living in a rented flat and really didn't have many prospects. And I decided to call my girlfriend. So I reached out to a woman for support and to have a chat. And I dialed her number. And a man answered the phone. And I said, "Oh, well, I'm really sorry, whoever you are, you're not my girlfriend." And he said, quick as a flash, "Wouldn't I do instead?" And I said, "Well, not really, no, because you're a man and I wanted a conversation with a woman. So you wouldn't do at all, I'm afraid," and put the phone down. And then I sat there and I thought about it for a moment and I thought, Alison, you're 33, you have your whole life in front of you, you really liked his voice, he's obviously witty, he's obviously intelligent, and actually has quite a sexy voice. So why don't you just dial that number back? So I dialed the number back. And he picked up the phone and said, "I'm so pleased you rang, because if you hadn't, I wouldn't have been able to trace you, because I actually called him at his office. It was a Sunday and he was in his office working." Anyway, cut a long story short, we eventually met after 3 weeks of talking on the telephone. I didn't particularly want to meet. I wasn't looking. I was just intrigued by the conversation, and then I thought, okay, why not? We'll meet. You know, it'll probably all go wrong, but never mind. And I met him and I thought, actually, it's rather nice. We went out 2 or 3 times, and the third time he turned to me. He'd fibbed about his age, by the way. He was younger than me, and he'd worked out that I probably wouldn't date him if I knew that I was older than him. So he'd fibbed about his age and got away with it because I didn't realise. And the third time we went out, he turned to me and said, "It is completely obvious to me you're the woman I should spend the rest of my life with, and would you marry me?" And to cut another long story short, having spent 13 years with somebody and not married them, I clearly wasn't the sort of girl who made her mind up swiftly. So I said, could I just have a think about that? And over the next 6 weeks, there were all these strange coincidences, including my then business partner, totally randomly turning to me and saying, "You know that Effie person whom you've met once or twice, you do realise that's the man you should marry, don't you?" And just walked out the room having said that. And I just sat there and I thought, Alison, the world is trying to tell you something. So I said yes. And that was 19 years ago, and we have 2 beautiful sons.
Is Churchill in your mind sometimes?
Churchill is always in my mind, as is Lady Thatcher, and all politicians who believe in their country and have that faith in the human spirit and in the spirit of British people. It's a very unique and special spirit.
You met Margaret Thatcher?
I did meet Margaret Thatcher, yes. I met her on 2 or 3 occasions. One was at a drinks party, and I was absolutely struck by 2 things. One was her complete ability to talk on any subject at the drop of a hat. She was immensely well-read and well-informed. And the other was how attractive she was close up and how beautiful her skin was. And she was quite mature at that point. She was probably in her late 60s, 70s. But I thought to myself, I can absolutely see how you could sit in the cabinet room and control that table of men with your female powers. I could, because people did say that on a personal level she was quite, not flirty, but just had a certain charm about her. And I could absolutely see that. And the other time that I saw her was on the night of her 3rd term, her historic 3rd term election victory. And I was in my flat in central London watching the polls through the night. And when it became apparent that she was going to win, I was so excited by this because I so believed in what she was doing that I got out of bed, got dressed and walked at 3 a.m. from my flat to Smith Square, where the headquarters of the Conservative Party were. And I got to Smith Square, and of course the night was completely black. It was 3:30 a.m. But the square was lit up with cameras and tripods and big lights. And I was there at the exact moment that somebody lifted the sash window and she ducked her head underneath and raised her hand and waved to the crowd, and all the flashbulbs went off. And that is the iconic photo of her on the night of her 3rd term election victory. And I just remember standing there thinking, A, I'm in the presence of a piece of history. I know it. This moment will never be forgotten by the world. And B, you, Mrs. Thatcher, as she was then, are my poster girl. You represent what I want to be. If the grocer's daughter from Grantham can be our 3rd term Prime Minister, maybe the postman's granddaughter from Essex can go to Cambridge, can be an entrepreneur, can be whatever she wants to be. So she completely inspired a generation of people, in particular women, I think, women like me.
Did you meet Theresa May?
Yes, I have met Theresa May. So she very kindly came to one of our Make It Your Business events, which is the charity I've formed to support and encourage women to start their own business. And obviously the Prime Minister is a great supporter of enterprise and wealth creation, and she came to one of our events in her constituency in Maidenhead, and we had a fantastic day with her. You could have heard a pin drop when she walked into the room because none of the women there knew she was coming, and all of a sudden she walked in and sat down and the room was just sort of
But she has a very difficult time now.
She is having a difficult time, but I think what's really interesting is that people respect and acknowledge that she is a true public servant. She cares very much about her job and delivering what she considers her job requires her to do. And she is immensely loyal and hardworking. And even amongst all the difficulties, people have said, you know what, regardless of Brexit, this woman has steel. I do want to work in politics. I really think it's important. But I think what's equally important is that in politics, you walk the talk. It's about consistency. If you say you're going to do something, you must deliver on it. And then people believe you. It's about authenticity. And I think one of the problems in politics is that people have fallen out of love with the behaviour of many politicians. Politics is a difficult, dirty business, make no mistake, but it is really important to hold on to your core values. I think as an entrepreneur, I'm a born optimist. It is very important for me to wake up with my glass half full, not half empty. But we must remember that we did vote to leave, and therefore the answer to your question has to be, yes, I think a lot of other people think the way that I do. We want to regain that sense of independence, that sense of self-determination. That those are quite entrepreneurial feelings, really. It's quite interesting, and I think that's why I feel so attuned to it, that being an entrepreneur, you are independent, you do determine your own wealth and power and fortune in life. And I think as a country, we want to regain some of that spirit, and I wholeheartedly support that.
Which are the risks? Are they high? Is the country ready?
Well, I think we've lost a bit of time and ground because we haven't been focused and direct enough about achieving the outcome, about seeing the process through. So I can't hand on heart say I think we're absolutely ready, but do I think that we have the power to adapt and survive and get through this? Yes, and I think we shall probably surprise ourselves. Just one small example, I was at a manufacturing fair recently in the United Kingdom, a furniture fair because of what I do, and I was absolutely struck by how much optimism there was amongst British manufacturers. And it is a matter of slightly reinventing ourselves. You know, we have to have that belief and that pride in our ability to create, to invent. I mean, remember, we are the nation who held the Great Exhibition back in Victorian times. You know, we did create the Industrial Revolution. We know how to be innovators, and we must refine that spirit. So this is the man I met on the telephone and subsequently married, and has been my husband for 18 years. This actually is one of my favourite pictures. This is my husband and my 6-week-old son, who's now 18. And it's just the most beautiful picture because it shows what a wonderful father he is and always has been ever since. This was on our wedding day, which I don't suppose I thought was ever going to happen. Maybe I thought I wasn't the marrying kind, but there you go. And these are my wonderful 2 sons, now aged 18 and 15. And that's our family unit.
You're often invited as a guest to different shows here in Great Britain.
Yes, absolutely. So people really want to know about how I made it, how I started my business, and how I've grown it. And the answer is is very short, slowly. I mean, it's taken me 30 years. And I always say to people in business and as an entrepreneur, the most important quality is consistency and tenacity. You have to persevere. And ultimately, if you do that, you will succeed.